Yes, you have been here a long time, many of you. And I'm going to sort of bring it back to the personal and back to really Bonnie's story. I first was introduced to Bonnie as Bonnie Keltner, who was a student at Rutgers University with a man, Filthy Ritz, of the Cockettes, who was my lover, Marty Warman, back then at Rutgers University. So my history with Bonnie goes back when I was an undergraduate at Stanford in 1970. And I read about a woman who had laid sod on the James Lick Freeway in San Francisco and brought in a cow to graze under a palm tree. And I thought, how cool is that? I want to be around people like that. So I headed to San Francisco and landed on Castro Street between 18th and 19th Street. Harvey Milk's camera shop was a mid-block. The Hula Palace was at the end, and our commune was comprised of gay lib street activists. Harvey worked the system. The Hula Palace provided the salons where it all came together: art, politics, and liberation. It was at the Hula Salon that Harvey Milk... Oh, I was going to time myself. I'm going to do 12 minutes. I was a public school teacher. I want to give these incredible Chip Lord and Rodessa Jones plenty of time. So I'll do it at 11. I've already talked about it. It was when Harvey came to the Hula Palace Salon with his hair cut short and in a suit saying, "I'm still a freak, I'm one of you, but I want to get work within the system." Our circle included the Angels of Light and the Cauliflower Commune, based on the Digger philosophy of free. Some of you asked about Cauliflower and the Diggers earlier, and there's a number of the Cauliflower Commune who have joined us today, and some of the next generation who are carrying on the philosophy and work of the Diggers. In particular, Eric Noble, who has the Digger Archives, which is an incredible resource, and we do weekly salons on Sunday nights, and we're telling old stories, and we're all producing new work, and it's really very exciting. In 1975, Jesse Cox, Teddy Matthews, Michael Bumblebee, Martin Warman, and I attended the United Nations World Conference on the International Women's Year as pro-feminist gay men. We came home with a desperate need to assist the political prisoners of Augusto Pinochet's dictatorship in Chile. We wanted to hold teach-ins, show films, and develop a play by Pablo Neruda, The Splendor and Death of Joaquin Murrieta. And the farm provided the venue for us to do that. We met Bonnie Shirk, and I found out that she was the woman on that freeway who had intrigued me so many years back. She discovered that underneath the roadways was a historic waterway, the Islayas Creek. Working through the tangle of government administration and civic buy-in with the same dogged determination as Christo and Jean-Claude. People mentioned Christo earlier today. She planted drought-resistant natives as natural flood remediation and created a nature walk to connect the neighborhoods and mark the walk with colorful signs describing the flora and fauna native to the watershed. Bonnie was a visionary and a magician. She was relentless and wore the opposition down. She spoke in compound, complex, run-on sentences and was never going to die. Too much administroni to work through, too much work to do. All along the watershed, she worked with schools to create garden-based learning centers, an initiative she called A Living Library and Think Park, or ALL, where intergenerational communities learned of the past, present, and future geological, biological meaning of place. Gina Bushell, Luke Damon, JD, and Antonio Morales are carrying on that work today, and Gina and Luke are with us right now. The living libraries would be connected worldwide through digital gateways so that elementary school students in Minnesota could confer with elementary students in Michoacan about the health of the migration of monarch butterflies. Like the beat poets who cut and pasted paper before our computers did so electronically, Bonnie zoomed before Zoom. I moved to New York City and taught global literature and culture at Jamaica High School in Queens. Bonnie's roots were in the Northeast. She was born in New Bedford, Massachusetts, Jersey-raised, educated at Douglas College, Rutgers, and had a studio apartment on Cornelia Street in Manhattan's West Village, across from the acclaimed Cafe Chino, and later the Cornelia Street Cafe. While I was teaching high school in Jamaica, Queens, I was teaching Bruno Bettelheim's The Uses of Enchantment to 9th grade students who were reading fairy tales. Bonnie was creating an exhibition in a gallery in Soho. She said, let's collaborate, and so we did. The kids looked for any mention of herbs or other flora they could find in fairy tales, and then researched their symbolism. We videotaped the results of their research, and Bonnie embedded them, and you saw this, a photo of this, in a television monitor, in a tree of knowledge, and the students' videos spoke through the tree. I connected her to Pamela Mayo of the Living Theater and the wife of Stephen Ben Israel, who helped create the exhibit. In addition to the gallery shows and a living library in Roosevelt Island, Bonnie had grand visions for New York. She proposed an international garden of knowledge in Bryant Park on 42nd Street, as has been mentioned earlier today, behind the main branch of the New York Public Library, with community-built and maintained gardens based, as was mentioned, on the Dewey Decimal System. Instead, a large lawn fills Bryant Park. As much as I loved Bonnie's concept for the park, I do love its present iteration. I go there to see movies in the summer or grab a bite to eat for lunch at the many food kiosks that line it, and celebrate winter there, watching families ice skate and drinking hot chocolate and shopping at the Christmas market. That being said, Bonnie's plans for the International Library are brilliant, and some library somewhere out there should be the perfect place for Bonnie's vision. She had an ambitious development plan for South Point Park on Roosevelt Island. She envisioned the ruins of the Renwick Smallpox Hospital on the island's South Point becoming a cafe and learning center, serving food grown on site. She proposed creating a boat yard and slip where youth would build boats with Floating the Apple, an organization that supports water access around the city, and use them to monitor the health of the water in the East River. She proposed gardens with raised beds where long-term residents of the neighboring hospital could garden from their wheelchairs. Admiral William Vanden Heuvel, the father of Wendy Vanden Heuvel, who's the editor of Nation magazine, had other ideas and the money to make them happen. He resurrected a plan by Louis Kahn for Four Freedoms Park, so a manicured, sterile design won out. He got a letter from me that I'm maybe not very proud of, but as a New York neighbor, I was the one who had the extra set of keys to Bonnie's apartment. When I learned of her death, I took it upon her. Yeah, let's just honor Bonnie.
We're with you.
Take a breath and just honor that we're talking about a real person that we.
Yep.
Yes,
When I took it on myself with the permission of her incredible sister. I'm sorry, I didn't think I'd do this. And Rachel Binam, and the help of Keith Jamerick and Ivy Arcee to rescue her body of work. Ivy, when she went through the clothes, we gave like 3 truckloads of clothes, or truckloads, to Housing Works. Ivy, who was an activist with ACT UP, she said, oh, I'm going to take this suit and use it for my next arrest in Washington. We sent 33 bankers' boxes and several large pieces to her home in San Francisco. Andrea Lowenkoff was with us now, Bonnie's niece Maya Kellner-Rode, and German graduate student Sarah Hapsberger all convened at Bonnie's home on Mirabelle Street to continue the work, and then Fort Mason came our way. At Fort Mason, we worked with Darlene Tong, and when Lindsay King of Stanford came to see the progress of our work, I said, isn't it great we're mixing fun with pleasure. Working with Darlene Tong is fun. I'd like to show a brief slideshow of the process of turning the archives. So here's the dirty laundry. Let's see here. So this was her apartment on This was her apartment on Cornelia Street. And she was on the 3rd floor. And one day the door was one of these painted over and over and over again, and it was stuck, and I couldn't open the door. And she died on August 21st, and her lease ran up on September 30th, and the landlord didn't know she died, and so I snuck in, and I would sneak in, and suddenly I was locked out. And so I left it like this. You know, I wanted to leave it, and when I finally was able to open the door, it was just stuck. But when the landlord finally came, they said, "Thank you very much, you did a great mitzvah." And here, did it go back to the beginning? So that's how I left it. These were the boxes that we sent to Mirabelle Street. Here's Mirabelle Street. And here was cleaning out Mirabelle Street. I'm sure all of you who cleaned out apartments for loved ones who have lost, this is very familiar. And here was her beautiful, beautiful home on Mirabelle Street. Here's Andrea. And we reduced it to this. Very proud of the work that we did. And as I was leaving the very last day, a hawk appeared in the tree up above her house. And I went back in to do a few things, and I came back, and it had dropped a feather right on the front step.
Oh, wow.
That old Wedgwood stove. So we tried to leave it for the family. Here was the hawk. And there was the feather. And so we left it on her desk. And Mirabelle Street is no longer. In the new home for the archives is Fort Mason. And Fort Mason, Frank and Mary Jane and Tanya are the gift that keeps on giving and giving. They're just the most phenomenally wonderful people, and so generous and so supportive. And I think that the work that they have done from these archives is family items. And there's my 12 minutes. I was a public school teacher. We ran by the bell. 42 minutes to be done, 5 minutes to start your next class. Thank you.